be careful about treading into territory that feels, necessarily heavy and unwelcoming in life, because there are a lot of spaces and places that
Like my
really
style?
aren't
Hit the subscribe
necessarily
button so you don't miss any
forthcoming
future videos.
or, warm. Those spaces don't, you know, pull you in, at least in a genuine way. They do want you to kind of be sucked in, but it's not in a way that feels healthy or safe or secure. Those spaces are more like abysses that you fall into. And those can look like many things. It's not just socially. Of course, you have vices, you have addictions, you have negative traits. Those can equally pull you in and kind of leave you trapped. But in the space of, people, you do have these more negative personalities that are wandering the earth, and some are lost, some are broken, some are suffering, some are angry, some are violent, some are malevolent, and some are just downright evil. It's almost like they're not even from this world. It's hard to identify those types of personalities because, there are a lot of bad qualities, but they do get kind of oversaturated, and there is a common consensus over what is considered evil at any given point, and that's usually pretty extreme. So to see those types of individuals out in the world is quite rare. But to be tapped into kind of those small, energetic turbulences, or, just ditches that you can fall into, stumble into, that's pretty common. And those can have profound impacts on you, by kind of pulling you into a series of unfortunate events, to, for lack of better words. And that might be a good kind of gateway into the topic. This idea of treading, as I mentioned earlier, into uncharted waters, into, new areas, can bring about disastrous consequences. Sure, you can investigate, you can explore, you can find something completely new and fresh, but you might also find something that you never would have expected or never would have hoped. Perhaps never even would have dared if you had known what it would have been like prior. New faces, new circumstances that you're not ready for, new predicaments that, your body isn't equipped to handle. There's a lot of things. And being somebody that has traveled and that has kind of been around a little bit in the world, I know that some, events and scenarios are just so wildly out there that you can't even imagine, like, just how bizarre some stuff is, and not even to get into the crazy scary stories, but just some of the downright weird shit that goes down. Like, this is a funny one. I like to share this. It's just a little story time, I guess. But I had this happen to me when I was in Hawaii, and I was in Oahu about 2 years ago, actually. And at the time, I was really starving for cash. Like, I had no money, basically. I think I had $50 total that I was worth in terms of my bank account, in terms of savings, everything. And so at that point, like, I was still working online, but I just didn't have like enough resources to keep me going based on how choices I had made and everything. So I was already in Hawaii, and so I was going to sleep outside because naturally that was kind of the best option. And I actually tried to sleep in a hammock, if you can believe it. And I set up my stuff, and I thought that I could, kind of be away from all the events taking place around me. And I had this guy walk up to me, and I was thinking at the time, like, what's going on? What's up with this? And he came up to me from far away, and I just like kind of braced for impact. I thought that maybe he was going to try to jump me or something. So I kept my hands in my pockets just in case. And not like I had any deadly weapons, but I had like my pick and a rope from the hammock. So he got up close, and he was literally like a meter away from me. And then he asked me like a few questions. He's like, "Oh, where are you from? Blah blah blah." But he's kind of quiet, which that kind of like puts me off a little bit. And then the most bizarre thing happens. This guy literally just says, oh, also he's from Cambodia, so he literally says the word "suck," and I was like, "What the hell?" Like, so I said like, "What?" And he said, "I want to suck your dick." And every time I tell this story, I always laugh because it's just how crazy it is. Like, he literally asked me that in the middle of the night, in the middle of like pretty much nowhere. I mean, it was a park, but it's not like, it's just not what you would expect. Like, it just took me by surprise. And so I actually kind of laughed. I was still tense, but I laughed, and I was like, "What the hell? No, man." And he said, "I'll pay you money." He said, I don't remember if he said a price, but I think he said, "I'll pay you money." And yeah, and that actually happened, like, so all that to say that there is stuff out there, that's just like a light story. I do have more scary ones and more, obscure ones to share, but that was one that really just kind of struck a chord in terms of how surprising something could be, how off-putting, kind of in a weird way, but not in a dangerous way. You just feel like, wow, So there's a lot of stuff out there. There's a lot of people out there, and if I can share any wisdom, it's just to be careful, because sometimes once you start looking, you start peering into the box. You know what they say, that the box peers back into you. And that's true for so many things. So you want adventure, you want experience, be careful what you ask for, because you'll find it and more. And sometimes it's too much for you to handle at that time. And when that is the case, be careful, because it's easy to spiral, and that's a topic I've talked about before. It's easy to spiral, and it's easy to lose control, and you have to try to stay grounded. You have to find resources, find people that you can trust and that do, acknowledge, your circumstances as real, and just find a way to kind of become balanced again, because this loop, it's so easy to fall into. So that being said, don't let that dissuade you from wanting to seek out new things in life. And there's a lot of beauty out there, but one should just be tender with the approach in terms of how you go about, experiencing things. Because if you bite off more than you can chew, don't be surprised when life does more than it can too. And that's the message for today. So that being said, thanks for watching. And I know it's dark. I hope you can still kind of see me. I don't even know what this looks like yet, but I'm gonna check it out in a second. If you resonate with the message, click subscribe, check out my future videos. I'd love to have you along, and peace.